Hi chess friends, today we are going to witness how Praggnanandhaa outplays Ivan. Praggnanandhaa plays with white, Ivan is black. Praggnanandhaa starts with d4, Ivan plays knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, makes way for kingside castle, e4, d6, bishop e2, castle on the king side, knight f3, preparing kingside castle, e5, castle on the king side, knight c6, d5, Praggnanandhaa locks the center. The common alternates are bishop e3 or d pawn takes e pawn, knight e7. This opening is called as knight e1, knight d7, knight d3, f5, f3 out of the opening book. Bishop d2 is the book continuation. f4. Ivan also wants to play closed game. b4, g5, c5. Praggnanandhaa wants to open a file on queen side. Knight f6, a4, h5, a5, g4. Praggnanandhaa pushes pawns on queen side and Ivan on king side. F pawn takes g4 pawn, h pawn takes g4 pawn, knight f2, queen d7, a6, b pawn takes a6 pawn, c6, attacks the queen, queen e8, moves to safety. Black's bishop has no squares, as the white's pawn controls all the light squares. Knight takes g4 pawn, creates a passed pawn on h2. Queen g6, knight on g4 is attacked by 3 pieces, protected only by 2 pieces. Knight f2, moves to safety. Rook b8, attacks the b pawn. Bishop takes a6 pawn. f3 was played. Better is rook takes b pawn. Let's see the continuation. Attacks the e pawn. Queen f3, bishop h6, bishop d2. Game is equal. Back to the position. f3 increases white's advantage. Queen takes f3 pawn. Bishop takes bishop. Rook takes bishop. Rook takes b4 pawn. Creates a passed pawn on a7. Queen g3. Slightly better is queen e3. Queen takes queen. H pawn takes queen. Praggnanandhaa has a doubled g pawn. Rook c4, attacks the knight. Bishop d2, protects the knight. Knight c8, protects the a7 pawn. g4, advances the passed pawn. Rook d4, attacks white's bishop. Rook d1, protects the bishop. Rook c4, rook b1, controls the open b file. Rook d4, attacks the bishop. Bishop e3, counterattacks the rook. Rook c4, attacks the knight. Rook b3, protects the knight. All the black's pieces are restricted. Knight on c8 need to protect the a7 pawn. Bishop has no squares. Knight on f6 has e8 and h7 square. If knight goes to h7, it will block the king and rook cannot come outside. So, black played king h7. Rook a4 was played. Better is g5, knight h5, knight b5, knight f4, knight takes c7 pawn. White's rooks, bishop and knights are very active and has a passed c pawn. White has a huge advantage. White can easily win from here. Back to the position. Rook a4 reduces white's advantage. Rook takes rook, knight takes rook, knight b6. Ivan wants to exchange knights, so that after knight takes knight, a pawn takes knight. An isolated pawn is a weakness. Now the A pawn will be connected to C pawn. Black can reduce its weakness. Knight C3. Praggnanandhaa wants to maintain the weakness. Knight C4. Slightly better is Rook A8. Bishop takes A7 pawn. Praggnanandhaa has 2 extra pawns. Bishop H6. Ivan gives a pawn to get some activity for his bishop. Knight B5. Attacks the C pawn. Slightly better is Rook B7. Rook A8. Rook B4. Attacks the knight. Knight A3. Slightly better is Knight E3. Pause the video and find the tactics for white. Compliments on finding the tactics. The move is Knight takes C pawn. Rook takes bishop. Knight E8. Knight takes knight. Rook B7 check. If king moves, rook will be lost. If rook takes rook, C pawn takes rook, and the pawn will promote to queen. Game is all over for black. Praggnanandhaa didn't see it and played knight takes knight. As this is a rapid game, rook takes bishop and attacks the knight. Rook B3 defends the knight and controls the E3 square. So the bishop cannot be exchanged with knight. Knight cannot take the E pawn. King G6. Knight B5. Forks the rook and C pawn. Rook A1 check. Saves both the rook and C pawn. King H2. Rook A2 attacks the knight. King G3. Bishop D2. Trap is set for white. If knight takes C pawn, bishop E1 pins the knight. Knight E6. Knight takes E pawn check. King F3. Knight D2 check. King E2. Knight takes rook. King takes bishop. Black has a little advantage. Back to the position. Praggnanandhaa didn't fall for the trap and played King F3. Knight H7. Slightly better is Knight E8. Knight H3. Stops Knight G5 check. Bishop A5. Protects the C pawn. Rook A3. Praggnanandhaa forces exchange of rooks. Rook takes rook check. Knight takes rook. Bishop B6. Knight C4. Praggnanandhaa's plan is to knight takes bishop, C pawn takes knight, and the C pawn will promote to queen. Back to the position. Ivan avoids it by bishop C5, knight D2, bishop B6, knight F1, bishop C5. As the king and knight need to control the G5 square, Ivan moves his bishop back and forth. Knight G3, king F6, knight F5, bishop B6, king G3, king G6, G5, knight takes G5 pawn, knight takes knight, king takes knight, knight G7, king G6, knight E6. Praggnanandhaa maneuvers his knight beautifully. King H5, king H3, bishop A5, G4 check, king G6, F5, G5, H5, D7 and D8 square all are controlled by white's pieces. Black's king is locked inside his own territory. King G2, bishop B6, king F3, bishop A5, king E2, bishop B6, king D3. Ivan resigned. Pause the video and find why black resigned. Compliments on finding it. Let's see it now. White's plan is to move the king to B7 square and then exchange the knight for bishop and c pawn, and then c pawn will promote to queen. There is no way for black to stop it. So black resigned. If you like the video, share, subscribe and like. Thank you. Now it's puzzle time. Black to play and win. Post your solutions in the comment section.